today I'm going to be talking about Trevor Phillips. Now, Trevor Phillips was recently suspended from the Labour Party. We don't know who made this accusation, but some of the material for which he's been suspended and which was quoted in his letter, some of the material goes all the way back to 2006. Just going to give you a little history regarding Trevor Phillips so you know the sort of person he is. In 1997, he co-authored a report with the Runnymede Trust, an organisation dealing with racial equality. He co-authored a report with them introducing the term Islamophobia into the public vernacular. So he was the one who introduced it into the public discourse, and that term is now being used against him. He also successfully lobbied the government to introduce the Racial and Religious Hatred Act 2006. That act introduced specific protections against religious hatred, which included against Muslims. He later then served as the first head of the Equalities and Human Rights Commission, which is Britain's equalities watchdog, and they did incredible work protecting Muslims against religious hatred and against racial hatred. So this man has a history of fighting for racial equality. Now, what did Trevor Phillips do wrong, according to the Labour Party? What he did was merely express concerns regarding the fact that the majority of people involved in the grooming gang cases were of Pakistani origin and were Muslim. He also made a documentary where he expressed concerns regarding the views of Muslims, explaining that the center of gravity of Muslims' views was different to that of the rest of the population. For instance, a significant number of people, according to the polls, a significant number of Muslims rather, said that they wanted to ban homosexuality. He also expressed concerns regarding the fact that a significant number of Muslims, again according to polling data, expressed sympathies towards the motives of the Charlie Hebdo attackers. Now, given this is just genuine criticism, genuine, honest appraisal of the views of Muslims. This isn't some sort of bigotry-driven hatred or some sort of. He's certainly not a racist, and he certainly is not a bigot against Muslims, given the fact that he's done so much work for Muslims.
And where did this polling data come from?
This polling data came from Comres. It came from serious, well-known polling organizations that we trust on voting data on a number of issues. Regarding polling data, it's the only scientific way of assessing what people's views are, is to do polling. There's no other scientific way of checking. So, I mean, you can't deny polling data simply because you dislike the results. Now, why did the Labour Party really suspend Trevor Phillips? Two possibilities. He was one of a group of people who signed a letter to The Guardian saying that they would not vote for Labour, for Corbyn's Labour. Another thing is that he was the former head of as I mentioned before, of the Equalities and Human Rights Commission. Now, the Equalities and Human Rights Commission is the same organisation now investigating Labour over accusations of anti-Semitism.
So why do you think they, in the Labour Party, have decided to launch this against him? Is it because he is involved with the Equalities Act, which is now obviously investigating Labour, or is it because he has done something to rub people up the wrong way?
I think it's part of both. I think it's, as Trevor Phillips himself said, political gangsterism. Essentially, I feel like what's happening here is that, one, they're sending a warning shot to the Equalities and Human Rights Commission. And also, what's happening is that I think he's rubbed someone the wrong way in the Labour Party, given the fact that he's such an outspoken critic of Jeremy Corbyn. The Labour Party has been well known of trying to get rid of critics of Corbyn through whatever means that they can find. And what I find suspicious is that some of these accusations go back to 2006. That's more than a decade ago. Why would someone use something from 2006 to try to prove that he should be kicked out now? It kind of boggles the mind.
So, what about anti-Semitism in the Labour Party?
Personally, I wasn't quite sure if the accusations of anti-Semitism initially weren't being confused with just simple anti-Israel sentiment. But I've got lots of friends in Labour, and they've shared with me some of the messages that have been sent in some Labour groups and what they've experienced personally. And let me tell you, I think there genuinely is a problem with anti-Semitism. The issue is that when you go that far left, people start believing in conspiracy theories regarding Jewish people. It's similar to the right. When you go that far to the right, you start getting conspiracy theories about Jewish people. It's like the horseshoe theory. You go far enough to the left or the right, and you end up in the same place.
So it seems like it was to me, through what you're describing, a final nail in the coffin.
It definitely...
for looking for an excuse to get rid of this individual.
I think they were trying to look for whatever excuse they could, and genuinely, I don't think the average individual in Britain looking at this really does believe that Trevor Phillips is an Islamophobe. I think what's happening is that I'm a Labour Party member myself. It's making the Labour Party into this joke. People aren't taking the Labour Party seriously now. They lost so many seats because of their failure to deal with anti-Semitism robustly, because they went so far to the left. When I was a Muslim, whenever anyone would criticize our religion, even if it was a genuine criticism, we would shout Islamophobia. But we ourselves, we used to criticize other religions, Christianity, Hinduism, Judaism, what have you. And I realized that there was some level of hypocrisy there. And that was one of the doubts that I had that led me out of the religion. Now, I digress slightly, but my experience is proof that the term Islamophobia is weaponized and used to shut down genuine, honest debate. And we seriously need genuine, honest debate, given the views in the Muslim community, given the regressive attitudes in the Muslim community.
Why is politics, specifically the Labour Party, from what I have heard, from what you are saying, so petrified of religion being mentioned?
They're petrified of religion being mentioned because Labour's always been known as the anti-racism party, the party that fights against oppression, that fights against inequality, that fights against racism and bigotry. Now, they're afraid that if they mention a genuine criticism of Islam, they'll be lumped in with the far right, and that people will say, you're an Islamophobe, we won't listen to you.
So, can you talk about Keir Starmer and why he has been so quiet, do you think?
Yep, well, first things first, Trevor Phillips is in fact a constituent of Keir Starmer. And the fact that Keir Starmer's not said a word, not a peep about the fact that his constituent has been suspended, I think is shocking. I think it's disgusting, and I think it's something that as a Briton I feel ashamed about, that we're in a situation where our politicians can't genuinely be honest and can't discuss these issues. And the reason why I think none of the leadership contenders have said anything is because they don't want their campaign to be coloured negatively by the accusation of Islamophobia or bigotry. So they're just keeping shut. They're just following their advisors, their publicity advisors, to remain silent. And I think that's it says something about our society, and I don't think that it's a positive thing. I think it's a very negative thing.
Anything else you would like to say as a final parting point?
What I would like to say is that educate yourself, be honest, be truthful, genuinely don't be bigoted. For instance, and I didn't mention this before, but 15th of March, this is the anniversary of the Christchurch attacks. Anti-Muslim bigotry is real. It genuinely is real. So I'm not sitting here saying that anti-Muslim bigotry doesn't exist. It does. But what we have to be careful of doing is that of not shutting down honest debate that is not bigoted in any way, that is genuine. And that's all I'm asking for.